Okay, it's time for Jerry and the Goddesses Part 20. This one has another pretty serious trigger warning. Implied rape happens like fade to black, and it happens. Doesn't happen in the text, but it is very strongly implied. Here we go. Nick Buford. I swear, my lord, I looked everywhere. I asked everyone. No one knew anyone named Jerry Williams. Nick's voice was strained, but that was to be expected when Asterin was holding him aloft by the throat. Why would you lie to me, my acolyte? And what do you expect to accomplish by this lie? I already know what happened. Nick squirmed, confused. He was telling the truth. Julie wailed in his mind, panicking. Duke raged and swore vengeance upon the god assaulting him in his usual mindless fashion, but Tim was smart. Tim said, Nicky, tell him the knowledge goddess must have gotten to you, messed with your mind. That has to be what happened. Sudden realization washed over Nick. Tim must be right. Shut up, Drake and Julie, he muttered under his breath. My lord, the goddess of knowledge, she must have put false memories in my head. I swear to you I'm telling the truth. Please, you must believe me. Asterim grinned ruefully. Must I? He tossed Nick back against the wall of the abandoned factory building he had taken up as his new residence. Nick's head smacked against the wall hard like an explosion. He felt his skull fracture and break, and everything went black for just a split second. And then he was lying on the ground, a minor itch at the back of his head fading away. He lay there, breathing heavily, watching the dust on the floor stir at the motion of his breath. I must not do anything, my acolyte, but I do believe you. Sarissa is wily, the most cunning of all of us, behind myself, of course. It makes no sense that you would find and attack them and yet fail, and then come back and claim to have never found them. There were 2 goddesses arrayed against you. You never stood a chance. Nick was afraid to look up. He kept his eyes down, uncertain of what his punishment would be for failure. In truth, you performed far better than I had expected. I even arranged a reward for you. Should I withhold this reward, I wonder, as punishment for letting yourself be stripped of your memories? Nick hoped the withholding of whatever reward he spoke of would be the extent of it. He held his breath, hoping and praying silently. Asterim laughed, suddenly, a deep, booming laugh. Oh, yes, you are a loyal one, aren't you? You shall have your reward. It is something you have long desired, and it is borne by one who brings news for you. Nick finally looked up, unable to believe his luck. Asterim stood, grinning down at him, an imposing dark presence that seemed to suck the light out of the room. He fixed his eyes on his lord's chin and did not move them until he heard the squeak of old hinges. A man, dressed in the same clothes as Nick, entered. This man had dark hair and eyes, and tattoos snaked up the side of his neck and speckled his face. He was not as large as Nick, nor as well built, but he looked dangerous nonetheless. The man carried a large plastic trash bag over his shoulder, and Nick recognized the shape of a body inside. The newcomer strode forward, then addressed Asteram in a reedy, raspy voice. Where should I put her, my lord? Give her to Nicholas, child. The man nodded and dropped the bag on the ground in front of Nick. A feminine grunt emerged from it, followed by a whimper. You have wanted this for some years, my acolyte. Enjoy your reward and do not concern yourself with your failure. Depriving my sisters of their worshipper was but a minor part of my plans. Your failure is of no consequence. When you are done, you will sacrifice your reward in my name. Do not think to keep for too long, however. My patience is not infinite. Nick nodded. Yes, my lord. Thank you. Asterim turned without another word and walked out. The new guy stood there for a bit, watching Nick. You gonna open it, bro? Nick lifted himself to his feet. What is it? I'm not supposed to say, but I want to see you open it. Fine, Nick said and drew his knife. It was a new one, a survival knife like the one he saw in that movie. The one with the guy who played the boxer where he was a commando or something being hunted by a small-town sheriff. Nick wasn't a big fan of movies, but he had always remembered that knife, and now he had one just like it. Long and drop-pointed with a serrated spine. He'd sharpened it to a razor edge, and it now slid easily through the thin plastic. It was her. Not Cindy Mallory, the girl he'd been obsessed with since middle school, but her daughter, Kathy. Wide eyes, so much like her mother's, stared up at him with no recognition, only terror. Nick grinned. A part of him would prefer to have gotten Cindy, but she was old now, a mother of 3, worn and broken. But this one was young, fresh, innocent. Nick's grin widened. "You've seen me open it, now get out," he said to the man, not taking his eyes off his prize. He saw the man shrug in the corner of his vision. "Sure thing, man. Maybe let the rest of us take a turn when you're done?" That got Nick's attention. "The rest of you?" "Yeah." The man looked a little confused. "How many of you are there?" The man thought for a second. Nick could see that thinking was not his strong suit. 13, I think. Maybe 14. 14 men? Nah, there's 3 chicks, but they're nasty bitches. Probably want to take a turn as well. The man grinned. "What's your name?" Nick asked him. "Bob." "All right, Bob, I'll tell you what. When our Lord is not around, the rest of you listen to me, understood?" "Yeah, that's what Lord Asterham said." "Good. Now, I suspect we're going to want more, so go out and recruit. Find people with strong stomachs and strong backs and strong arms. Tough, hard as nails people. Badasses. The first one of you to bring in 5 new people will get a turn with her, so long as it's done in 2 days. Bob cocked his head. "I already recruited 7, he said, a hopeful note in his voice. "Then you'll get a turn in a couple hours. The deal still stands for the others, though, understood?" "Yeah, I'll let 'em know." "Go on, then. I'm gonna be busy for a while." As Bob left, Nick looked down at his reward. She was still whimpering, still squirming. He grinned again and unbuttoned his pants. The end.